Wednesday it was New Year. New Year in China, and this year it's the year of the snake, the wooden snake.
The wooden snake, yeah.
Last week we spoke about India, and it's a coincidence or not a coincidence, I don't know. We always talk about investing through the stock markets. We talk about valuta, we talk about sectors, and this is the second time in a row we talk about a country.
From a specific area in the world.
Yeah, and that's because, I think, because of the year of the snake. I'm going to explain a little bit more about that, but also because of last Monday that DeepSeek came with their AI tool from China. So China is in the news, I think.
Quite a bit of impact it had.
Yeah, it's as you probably know, but every year in China has a animal that support that year. There are 12 animals, so every year, every 12 years it is repeated. But they have also a supported element, so wood, fire, water, etc. This year it's the wooden snake, and it's the snake is green because in China the wood is symbolized by
green.
By green. So what does it mean? First of all, the last time there was a green wooden snake, that was in 1965, and in that year Xi, the leader of China, was born. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. What does the green snake symbolize? It symbolizes transformation, intelligence, and adaptability. Adaptability. I was looking at you.
No, it's fair because I saw it, I read it, so I had time to...
And if you look at from an investment perspective, and I think some people say, yeah, whatever, I don't believe in those things, and some people will follow it completely. But if I say that from an investment perspective, it is stated that it is a time where you have to have patience and you have to make strategic choices. And I think if you look what's going on in the world from a geopolitical perspective between China and the US and Europe and China and Europe, etc. And if you look after the big performances of the S&P 500, tech performances mainly of the last years, I think it's time that people should be cautious and should be, especially also the first month of this year, people should rethink and really make strategic choices. And you are going to close off, so you must keep on watching because Martin finalized with really
4 big companies.
Really interesting Chinese undervalued companies. So if you don't like my story, you have to, or you can scroll to Martin's part, but and that's really important.
Because you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting year. And if you look at what I if you look at the S&P 500, if you look at the 12 symbols, the 12 animals, and the return on the S&P 500, then the year of the snake is always in the middle, an average return of 8%. And the year you just told me before we started, you were born
in the year of the pig.
Yeah, and the year of the pig is the best year always on average. It's on average
that's on here.
18-19%. If you go back to the year of 1965, so the last year there was a wooden snake, then the S&P 500 only performed 1%. So on average, 8.
Well, you just told it started with 4, right? In the first month that year.
First month was 4. And how is the first month doing of?
Same.
It's the same.
Last day of the month, we're 4% up, approximately. Yeah. So that means that the market will go down 3% now.
So investors that look at the Chinese market say, okay, you have to look at it from a certain perspective. Last week we spoke about India, and we said, okay, probably a big chunk of the investors left China in the last years and went to India.
Yeah.
But maybe this is time that you already see that they are coming back. And what kind of investments are they looking for? So they're looking at strong investments. So
in China, you mean?
In China, yeah. And that can be like investments that pay out dividends. So they have a strong, significant profits, and they are able to pay out in dividends, or companies that are really undervalued. And again, Martin going to talk about that.
I'll explain you about that.
Yeah, and the last thing about the geopolitical situation, on the 5th of March, so in 1.5 months, the National People Congress comes together, and it is expected that they will they announce stimulus for the economy, and that can be lower interest rates, but it can also be other ways to put money in the market. And it is also said that China is better prepared now against Trump than they were 8 years ago. So they have already their measurements in place. So, and that's also what the year of the snake symbolizes: change, strategic changes, and probably that will be also, that will be necessary for China because of the geopolitical situation. So, if you believe in that and you want to take an investment in Chinese companies, which companies should you buy then, Martin?
You should be looking at the following 4 companies. And there's many ways you can look at a company. You can say, okay, I'm looking at a chart, I see the ones that have dropped the most, or I can look at the price earnings, or you can look at a discount model, or you can look at, anything. But what I like to do today is with you, I would like the fair value method. That's basically what is the company really worth. So what is the share price really? And I'm referring to the price in dollars. Many of these stocks you can also buy directly on the Chinese market through us, but in this case, for the comparison, I'm working with the dollar price. So the first company is Baidu, and it's quite funny actually, because all of these companies have a similar sort of company in the US that we all know, that you probably all have in your portfolio. So Baidu is like, I would say, you could compare it to the American Google. And so it's a search engine, and they have a very big, also Google Cloud. Same here with Baidu, they have a big cloud AI tool in the air, and they're really trying to monetize that. They're already making 80% of the revenues through their cloud model. The company at this moment is 11 times the earnings, so the price earnings is 11, which is actually quite low. It's the lowest of all 4. It's 47% discount based on the fair value of $157 if you use that method. So interesting company to have a look at. The next one is Tencent, and Tencent is the owner of WeChat, and WeChat, maybe you could compare it, and you probably know it's maybe like Meta, Facebook. It's a chat functionality, WeChat, but it also has a lot of other stuff you can buy directly. Mortgages. Yes, loads of different functionalities. It's a one-stop shop app for your social life and everything that goes with that, and also your personal life. Company is trading 20 times the earnings, and it's at 41% discount on the average fair value price of $90. YumChina, maybe comparable with in the US like Starbucks. Or
I don't know the company.
YumChina is a company that owns.
It sounds something.
Yum. It has to do with food, and it's the distributor or the brand that brings out KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, and they are hugely spread over whole of China, so they have a really big scale. And they are known for their operational excellence. So they're managing to despite that they have all these, because China is huge, of course, huge amount of people living there, a very large population, but they are capable of managing that whole process of being so big logistically very, very well. They have a bit of a headwind based on the real estate situation. They own quite a lot of real estate themselves as well.
Like McDonald's.
Yeah, but they do have a very strong balance sheet. And like I said, they're very flexible to adapt to different situations. So interesting company as well. And then the last one is JD.com. JD.com, you can compare maybe with Amazon. It's like an e-commerce. You have also, of course, Alibaba. Alibaba is a little bit more expensive. So JD.com trades 29% below the fair value estimate of $50. Extremely efficient company. I mean, imagine the size of China with the logistics, and I think the company owns, I don't know how many planes. It's a huge company. They cover all of China, all districts, so you can imagine how big and how large this operation must be. Company 20 times the earnings and 30% discount compared to the fair value. And if you would put those companies, for instance, the first one, the chart you can see here, you put Baidu versus Google, or you put Tencent versus Meta, or you put YumChina versus Starbucks, you see how those lines go out of each other. So you see the American market going up and up and up and up, and you see those Chinese companies actually going down, and it's might say something. They're all trading far below their all-time highs that we've seen a couple of years ago.
Yeah, because they're missing the foreign investors.
Exactly.
Yeah, what I said, maybe they're coming back. And we spoke about it before we were recording this, and then I asked Martin when was it, because we had seminars that we held, that we hosted, and then the theme was, should you invest now in China and India? And that was when, Martin?
2011. I can 100% I get reminded. In Portugal, we did it in the old office. Yeah.
And also we also mentioned the ETFs, and I had a look at one ETF, and that's also in the line of the theory that that are strong, large companies with also dividend streams are in it, and it's the iShares China Large Cap. And if you compare it to the different Chinese market, depending where you're looking at, but they gained in 2024 between 12 and 70%, and this ETF gained 37%, so more than double the market. And it's also a little bit like, of course, the S&P 500, the Magnificent Seven, they were good for the biggest growth. And it's also with, there are so many companies there, listed companies, I think they're 50, if I'm not mistaken, but they have had a good year so far. So maybe this is the sign that foreign investors come back slowly. It's all depending on what's happening in a geopolitical chess field.
Yeah.
And then the DeepSeek from Monday, the competitor of ChatGPT, from China also. And I think it shows something that China, of course, they copy a lot, and this is also partly copied, and that's also the big claim of ChatGPT. They stole parts of us. That's our property. And on the other hand, ChatGPT is also accused of using more information. For example, there are lawsuits from the Wall Street Journal against ChatGPT and say, yeah, you use our information. So it's not a black and white competition, but it says something, I think, about the power of China. 6 million probably invested in to make that search engine. You tested it, directly
Yeah, it
Monday.
works perfectly. Yeah, I did check, and the prompts the same with ChatGPT. And I think for me personally, what I wanted to get out of it, DeepSeek was better. But that might be just one example. But I heard also some other people, the client we had the afternoon in the office, he said also, yeah, it's the same or even better. You know?
Oh yeah, it was yesterday. Meta and Google said there are things in DeepSeek that are better than ChatGPT. And of course, they are also a little bit competitor to ChatGPT, but it says something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think interesting times, and also the role that Europe is going to take into the situation, the geopolitical situation between China and the US. So China, you can have an exposure to China, and then you know which companies you have to buy
or
ETF. Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Give us your time.
See each other next time.